cars, no nothing?
I have a Toyota Prado, a Mitsubishi Pajero, and an Isuzu truck.
They're all within the you said
397. 397,100,000.
Good. I will now open the floor for these good members to ask you questions. I'll start with the leadership. Majority Leader. Oh my, sorry. I think I'm jamming the gun, diminishing returns. The journey of your life, Rebecca. In 10 minutes, who is Rebecca Miano? Kenyans want to know.
Thank you, Chair,
Yes.
and honorable members. I am Rebecca Miano. I would describe myself as a humble country girl born in Daragwa scheme that is in Nyandarua County. I was born in a large family of 14 siblings, and I am number 13 out of 14. My father was a civil servant and the sole breadwinner for the family. And therefore, Chair, we grew up with little resources, but I thank my parents that they invested in education for myself and my siblings. And when I look back at my life growing up in Daragwa, I have realized that what was packaged as challenges has contributed to my life. Chair, I was sent to a boarding school at a tender age in class 4 because the weather in Daragwa was quite cold and I would miss school often. And so at the age of 8, my father made a bold decision to take me to boarding school. And Chair, boarding school teaches the pupils to be independent, but what I recall most about boarding school are the opening days. We used to open school on Mondays, but my father never took an off to take me back to school on Monday. He therefore would take me to school on a Sunday. Classmates would describe me as the girl who used to be brought to school on a Sunday when everybody else will come in on Monday. The matron would receive me, Chair, and in the evening would put me in the dormitory. The only privilege I had, she would ask me to choose which bed I would want to sleep on that day. And it was a big dormitory. We had no electricity. And I remember vividly, I used to be very lonely the whole night. Then the following day, I would be alone in the compound until other students arrived around 3. Looking back, the matron should have kept me in her house for that night to make me better, but all the same. So after primary, I passed, and I went to secondary school, a school called Kapropita Girls in Baringo, where I sat and passed my O-level and my A-level in the same school. Again, opening days, my mother would take me to the road. I get to a matatu, and Baringo was quite far. I would arrive in the evening. And my father and mother trusted the process that she has gone, she will close school and come back. And so that's the kind of life I had in primary and secondary school. Later admitted to Nairobi University, studied law, then Kenya School of Law, and I was admitted as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. I had a short stint in legal practice, and my career detoured into corporate world. I joined the energy sector as an assistant legal officer. And Chair, I grew through the ranks up to what I am now. And I describe my career as a staircase career, where I served in each and every grade that was in the establishment. Some of the roles I served, senior legal officer, later became company secretary and legal affairs director, to whom elevator or escalator in my career. I steadily rose the staircase, and when I thought I have landed, it looks like there is still another staircase that I am here to discuss with you today. Chair, in the energy sector, I am proud of many achievements, and the one I'll point out is being able to steer a company that has provided security of power in the country. Chair, if you recall, around the year 2007 or 008, we had a similar drought like we have now, but we didn't have enough power. We would buy newspapers to check the schedule of when your area would have electricity. Right now, we do not have water, but we still have electricity because of the diversification of power generation, especially venturing into geothermal. We have done many other things. Kenya is now number 6 in the world in terms of geothermal development, which is something to be proud about. And there are many other achievements that I have included in my CV. Chair, I have also undertaken professional and postgraduate trainings and qualifications, including advanced management from Strathmore University and the University of Ayese in Spain, program on negotiations from the Harvard Business School, management of power utilities, a course that I did earlier on in life. Chair, at that time I was more interested in travel, but looking back, that is one of the most important courses I did, and I managed to understand fully power generation. After Kenya Power, there was unbundling of the energy sector and separation of functions, generation, transmission, and distribution, and that's when I moved to Kengen to start a legal department. I am a member of professional bodies. I will start with the Law Society of Kenya, East Africa Law Society. I am also Group Advisory Council on Gender and Development. I am serving as the Vice Chair of the UN Global Compact, and this is a movement that enables leaders to discuss business sustainability and practices that will promote business. Mr. Chairman, I also serve in other capacities, but I'll leave that for now. I am a family lady. I am married. I have 3 children, all in their youth and teenage. And I do hope, together with the other youth in this country, they will prepare themselves to participate in nation building for the benefit of our people. Chair, For the docket, I have been nominated. If my nomination is approved, I look forward to pursuing and protecting Kenya's interests, especially in the first theater of our interaction, which we call our neighborhood, which is the East African community. I also look forward to participate in development of our regions and our arid and semi-arid lands for posterity, prosperity, and for the good of our people in Kenya. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rebecca. We'll now open up to questions, comments from members of the committee. I'll give the first bite to the majority leader.
Thank you, Chair. The first one probably would just be a clarification whether Mrs. Rebecca Miano is the same as Rebecca Mwangeli Mwendo, because the degree certificate in her profile reads a different name from all her other credentials. So maybe she would just clarify that. Just to know if you know all the member states of the East African Cooperation Community, and the last member state to be admitted into the community, and that will be all for me.
Thank you. Madam,
you record the questions. Okay. You'll answer them in batches of 4-4. Yes, Wanda.
Yes, Chairman. Madam Rebecca, from your profile, I can see you are largely a corporate person. And indeed, you served a record duration at Kengen. About 24 years to date, which is an extremely long time in the corporate world, serving in one particular station or corporate, with one corporate. That notwithstanding, I've had your achievements, which you have gleaned through, but then what particular achievement that you would really look back and say you left at Kengen? What kind of legacy that you would transfer with yourself to this new docket, if by any chance you get approved? Apart from the geothermal power expansion or development, which is I would call the hardware bit, on the software side, people development, what kind of people have you left behind at Kengen? Yes, to be able to take up this very vital role. You are in Kengen. Secondly, and lastly, the Asal region of Kenya has endured 3 severe droughts in the last decade. That is 2010, 2011, 2016, 2017, and now 2020, 2022. The current drought, of course, has been the most severe and longest, with widespread livelihood losses and massive displacement of populations. So, and you know the role of the National Drought Management Authority, okay, in the overall coordination work over matters through the drought, risk management, and other mechanisms to end the drought. Now, what exactly, if by any chance you get approved, would you embark on as a matter of priority to first of all equip or position this drought authority, NDMA, to be able to deal with, to execute its mandate effectively, but more importantly, to mitigate the effects of this prolonged severe drought? Thank you.
Yes.
Chair, sorry, I think the law of diminishing marginal returns had set in. But from Honorable Pio's first question, I just remembered something, because Rebecca said she has scaled the stairs in her career. And
that she's still scaling.
She is still scaling. In actual sense, she said she didn't know whether there was still another stair to scale. Yes. But I find it's like the president has now elevated you from the corporate sector to CS level. I thought probably the next staircase would have been a PS. Are you comfortable with the elevation, with using the elevator now to CS? Other than scaling the stairs.
Owen?
Thank you very much. Rebecca, we heard you very clearly, very eloquently presented yourself, but I have 2 questions. One, I'll focus on your new to be assigned docket. One, Kenya has invested a lot in the East African community. Which direction will your leadership in this portfolio take, noting the challenges that historically has faced the East African community? You remember very well that this is not the first time we have attempted to unite the East African community, and the new things like currency, integration, and very many things that are in the East African docket right now. Rebecca, what different things do you bring this time around? How are you going to help this country and the East African region to actually achieve what it wants to achieve? Secondly, you have, in your presentation, you talked about your role in the UN Women and gender and issues like that, and that you bring in a lot of wealth in that area. But despite the affirmative actions that the provisions of our Constitution have given us, we, as a country, still to be struggling with the gender parity issue and gender equity issues. In your capacity as CS, how will you help us achieve gender parity in your docket? And what have you done to demonstrate your ability to deliver on this, given your history and the high levels that you have gone on this staircase? I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to ask the nominee, because she's been CEO of KenGen for a while, the allegations that the procurement of spares for equipment in the organization were moved from original manufacturers to brokers, which led to, of course, a very high increase in the prices of the spares. Maybe you can make a comment on that. And finally, now that this position you've been nominated to deals with the partnership of states within the community, and you know there has been conflicts between some of these partner states. Some actually sometimes don't even talk to each other. There's also been times when investments, international investments that are supposed to go across borders are affected by those conflicts, including the time when Kenya was part of that coalition we are calling the coalition of the willing, which was within the community. How do you think you will be able to handle those conflicts between partner states?
Dawood.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I would want to ask the nominee about, because she's the MD for KenGen, and Lake Turkana Wind and Power Project squarely falls under her docket, previous docket. It is in the public domain that a lot of money was paid to the company, whereas the transmission was not on grid. So a lot of losses have gone to the country because of that situation. What has she got to say? Because those losses are huge.
They called it dimmed supply. You get it? Dimmed supply. Is that correct, Rebecca? Dimmed supply. You'll answer that. Now answer the 5 questions.
Thank you, Chair. I will start with a question by the majority leader about my name by saying that I had a maiden name that was given by my parents. When I got married, I changed my name to Rebecca Miano. And so the certificates that you see were when I used my maiden name. So I want to confirm that all those Rebeccas are Rebecca Miano, and that's my current name. I also know all the member states of the East African Community, all of them. DR Congo, we have Burundi, we have Rwanda, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, and South Sudan. The latest entrants are South Sudan, and the very latest, DR Congo. I then go to the question by Honorable Wandai about being a corporate person, being in one place for a long time. And Honorable Wandai, if you look at KenGen and its size, a corporate that does the national electricity generation with an asset base of 450 billion, a turnover of about 45 billion shillings every year, a workforce of 2,500, operations spread all over the country. I want to say, apart from my management skills, managing a fleet of 1,904 megawatts, among other things, I have been tested and tried. I have built a scaffolding on which the country has built its power needs, an economy that needs electricity. I have been involved in implementation of big power projects and therefore adding capacity. If you look at data and the information available, at KenGen, it is on record that we have been implementing the projects on time and on budget. So one of the legacies is implementing the power project successfully. The other one is boldly being a steward and a trustee on behalf of the government and the people of Kenya of a critical function that drives the heartbeat of this nation. The other legacy is the leading role Kenya has in renewable energy. And Chair, 92% of electricity consumed in Kenya today is renewable energy. These are some of the highest percentages you will find in this world. And on a Sunday, when there is low demand, we consume about 96-97% renewable energy. I have been a champion of renewable energy. I have found myself having meaningful conversations in the world tables, including COP27, and lately, United Nations General Assembly, where I represented Kenya in showcasing our development in renewable energy. And just a little detail, I was among the 16 global CEOs that were picked to go and have a roundtable with the Secretary General to discuss that. Mr. Chairman, I have also brought in KenGen some initiatives that will probably outlive my tenure there. For a long time, the women in KenGen comprised of less than 10-20%. It's a male-dominated technical company, but we have put in place forums, measures, and policies that support the participation of women in this industry. I am the founding patron of a forum known as Pink Energy, where we have made it possible for women to be more confident, to undertake technical work, discuss their professional growth. We have sorted out even logistical and infrastructure issues that make it possible for them to participate. And Chair, this movement has been a mentor to many girls, especially those in the STEM studies, and we have shown them that we can work together and provide them an opportunity to be engineers, technicians, scientists, geophysicists, and others that girls have been shying away. And currently, we are not yet there, but I am happy to say we are at 27% women. And recently, we recruited the first operations manager in Kengen, who is a lady. That being the example, we have other fora. The YGen for the youth. Recently, we started the blue energy, but the blue are still putting their color and their manifestos and their strategies together. And I would say that then these forums have provided professional growth, professional comfort, and when the three merge, we have seen the benefits. The next question from Honorable Wandai was about the National Drought Management Authority. And yes, Honorable Member, the National Drought Management Authority has done a lot of work, especially in managing the drought and alleviating the effects. And going forward, the strategy I have seen from the National Drought Management Authority is to come up with strategies for more sustainable ways of managing the drought, including managing the effects of climate change, sorting out the water issues, the conflict issues we have seen, so that the strategies they have are not only food relief when there is a drought, but more sustainable ways. And I have looked at their document, and they want to make our country resilient when it comes to drought. Mr. Chairman, I look forward, if approved, to participate in this particular strategy, knowing that power stations are located in areas that have drought, starting with Olkaria all the way to Takwel, the Eastern Hydros in Embu County. And I know that I've been involved in climate change work, and I will be able to study the strategy and give an input into that strategy. So, Chair, I think we will work with the National Drought Management Authority, maybe refocus, and I know the document is good, but there is always room for more creativity, room for innovation, and room for learning to be able to handle drought in this country. Chair, the question by the majority leader about the staircase. Mheshimiwa, there are times that you take too long in one step, in one stair, so at times you may do 2 steps to catch up. But I am fully prepared and ready to take up this docket. I think my qualifications, experience, and skill set have prepared me well, equipped to take up this docket, and I will not call it an elevator. I will just say it is a stair, probably at the right time, and I am blessed that when I least expected a stair, I looked, it wasn't a landing, but another stair. So thank you for that. The question by Mheshimiwa Mbaya.
Owen Baya.
Owen Mbaya. Oh.
Owen Mzuri.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa. Yes. About the new docket, especially the East African community, and you have rightfully said that there were earlier efforts that did not work, it disintegrated. I remember reading that maybe the main reason why the 1966 to 1977 community did not work was a feeling among partner states that there was no proper sharing of resources and investments, especially in East Africa Airways, and I think East Africa Ports and Harbors, and East African Railway. And at the same time, there could have been ideological differences among the countries and the leaders. It seemed like Kenya pursued an aggressive capitalist ideology, and Tanzania socialism. I read that Uganda was still deciding on their ideology. So with that, it did not work very well. But efforts were made, and in 1999, the leaders then, their excellencies, came back together and revived the East African community. Honorable Mbaya, you asked what will be different this time. I have carefully listened and read the intent of our leaders, especially our own president, His Excellency Dr. William Ruto. I listened to the speech by His Excellency Museveni, and I have also listened keenly by the address by the President of Tanzania, Her Excellency Suluhu, when she addressed the National Assembly. What I see is that the leaders are not basing the new community on ideologies, on the leaders alone, but they have clearly pronounced themselves that the community is about the people. The people will participate. They all have said that we have a lot in common, that we have our origin that is the same, and therefore our destiny is the same. And we should come together to harness the resources that are in this region and coalesce everything together so that as communities we have shared vision, we are able to have economies of scale, and all this for the benefit of our people in the East African community. And Chair, as I was looking at this, it also dawned on me that a strong East African community will also be a springboard for the success of the African Union. And I truly believe that what has been pronounced is that when we are a bigger bloc, there will be more to achieve. There will be greater strength in working together, because as it is said, a high tide lifts all the ships, and therefore, going forward, I believe that everyone will participate. I've also realized the East Africa community issues are not known very much, not only in Kenya, but in the other community countries. We do need to communicate, and Chair, I am sure the Honorable House will be able to support, have civic education, so that our people are able to know what opportunities exist in the community, what they need to do, how they can harness that, be able to transfer their goods, their skills, their ideas, their intellect, because we share a common culture, we share common religions, tribes, and everything. So going forward, Honorable Mbaya, we have work to do and to unite the East African community. We also look forward to support from each and every group of people and even our youth, so that as we describe our neighbors, as we talk about our neighbors, as we talk to them, we know that the strength you have about your neighbors, it also participates, it's also built on how we treat each other. So I do look forward to a great success in this particular East Africa community, as envisaged by the anthem of Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki. On gender, you asked how I am going to promote gender parity. In the docket that I will be holding, I will check on the policies that exist, because I know there are policies. I will check how they have worked, and then come with the ideas, and based on the experience of what I have handled, be able to strengthen that. I serve as a member of the advisory council for the World Bank Group. There's a lot of learning, a lot of ideas, which will make us benchmark with other countries and with other jurisdictions and borrow from what has been done before. I then take the question by Honorable Mbui on procurement of spare parts. And Chair, if I may, the procurement of spare parts is included in the procurement plan that is submitted each year by the operations department. These are the engineers who run the power plants. They come up with a schedule of the spares that are required. And they are categorized in various categories. The first ones, strategic spare parts. And these are those that have a long lead time, and you need to stock them in case there is an outage, in case there is a breakdown. so that you don't keep the machines down buying those spare parts. The second ones are the consumables you need in operations and maintenance.
Mrs. Miano, his question was very simple. You, as the captain of KenGen, he says you've presided over a shift from procuring spare parts from manufacturers that would give you a price advantage to using middlemen, commonly called cartels, who then cause an inflation of the eventual pricing. Isn't that your question, Robert?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, that's my question.
That is the question. So I just just explain very clearly whether it is true or not. If it is not true, fine. If it is, then you can explain.
Thank you, Chair. It is not true. Regulations that exist, we are required to support local companies, but not blindly. We did check and we realized that it is cheaper, it is faster to procure the spare parts through the local companies because they are there and easily accessible in terms of any clarifications. And Chair, the local suppliers have been able to unlock some of the delays that may be experienced in the EOMs, original equipment manufacturers, who probably get orders from other bigger utilities and companies, and we may not be able to deal with them direct. Our operations team is running power stations, and Chair, I do believe that we have attained efficiencies and we have supported the local suppliers.
Dawood's question.
Honorable Dawood's question is in regard to Lake Turkana. Chair, the Lake Turkana power plant is an independent power producer and not in the mandate of KenGen.
Thank you. Naisula, Koech, Amisi, Mule, Raso. I'll come to you, Posting and Group.
Thank you, Chair. To Rebecca, one of the dockets that you'll be holding, the one on ASAL areas, in our 2010 Constitution, one of the key funds that was to unlock most of these areas was the Equalization Fund. And although it is domiciled at Treasury, I just want to know how you will liaise with your counterpart to ensure that these funds are disbursed to these counties and constituencies, because so far it has only been disbursed once and it has not served the purpose that it was supposed to serve. And my question on the East Africa community, what comes first, the country or the community?
Madam Rebecca, Aror Kimore Dam falls squarely under your ministry, a project that I strongly believe. To your left, Rebecca, have you? No one seems to.
Sorry.
Aror Kimore falls under your docket, Madam Rebecca, a project that I strongly believe was stopped because of toxic politics by the previous regime. One, will you revive the halted project? And two, what will you do with the huge penalties that is being slapped to the country, Treasury, by the contractor and the financiers? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. This is a ministry that Kenyans normally have scant information about. maybe don't bother so much. Just want to know if you know much of the areas of cooperation between the partner states. And on the regional development, do you know the regional development authorities? And do you think they're still viable? Or we collapse into the county devolution units instead?
Yes, Mole.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Thank you very much, Nominee. And I just want to congratulate you for the good document you gave us.
Very good.
Very good. I just want to refer you to the same document, the report to the presidential task, page 15. You are getting into a docket whereby it carries the entire region together. And as a country, we are faced by a challenge of investors coming in and disappearing to our neighbors because of high costs of production, majorly driven by electricity. As you get to this docket, I want to hear your comment when you look at the cost of production on page 15 and how much is being sold by Kengen against the independent power producers. If you look at table 1 on page 15, Kengen produces over 8,000 megawatts against IPPs who produce 3,000 megawatts, and then they generate revenue. Kengen generate 41 billion shillings for producing 8,000, and IPPs will producing 3,000. They generate 39 billion, and the table goes through from 2016 to 2020. The same time, if you look at the costs by the Kengen and the power independent producers below the second table, you'll find that the cost of generation for Kengen ranges between 4 and 9, but the other independent producers, the cost goes up all the way to between 10 and 11. My question comes hereby: how do you intend to advise the Kenyan government as the Minister for East Africa to become a competitive hub for our investors when this kind of scenario, you are leaving them behind the company you have been overseeing and you have worked for many years diligently?
Russell.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Madam Miano, congratulations on your nomination. If I read through your CV and what you have supplied us, and the docket that, if the House approves, you are likely to undertake, is now the difference between using a lift and you using the rail staircase. Here we are looking at the East African community, where you have Yala, diverse Mistrat competing. Then you have regional development authorities that are underfunded and appreciated, and also to be disbanded. Then you come to the region that I represent, the ASAL. Famine and drought, conflict, fighting and killing, displacement, underdevelopment, marginalized. You are corporate, so everything was basically available, although some you have to search. But here you have to basically search for everything. What is your strategy in terms of marrying the RDS and the ASAL? Thank you, Chair.
Madam Rebecca, you can answer those. 5. Starting with Naisula, Koech, Amisi, Mule, and Raso.
Thank you, Chair. I will start with a question by Honorable Naisula about the Equalization Fund that came into effect in 2010 and what I would do to discuss with the CS Treasury about this funding. Honorable Naisula, I believe that when you look at the ASALs, we are on a burning platform. There is drought, there are conflicts, there are issues of livestock, peace, a lot of issues. I should be able to discuss with my colleague at Treasury, provide the information and the data, well-researched data, so that he can consider and realize that these funds are a lifeline in these areas, and so that it is released. These areas need not be marginalized, and we need to put our very best foot forward to develop them, make them resilient. In any case, these areas are very well endowed in terms of resources. If you look at the energy minerals, all the sources of renewable energy, 90% of the wildlife, 70% of the livestock, and therefore these are areas that should be prioritized. I believe if I go with all the data available, with strategy that promise sustainability, we may be able to unlock the funds as can be afforded. In terms of East Africa community, you asked what is the priority or what comes first, whether it's the country or the community. Honorable Naisula, I think the community is tied, the community countries are tied to each other on the hip. However, we respect our sovereignty, and in accordance with the treaty, the protocols, we will safeguard and pursue our interest, but in the best way to integrate with the community. Kenya will not succeed if the neighbors have not, if there is no stability, if there are issues, and even the community will not succeed without Kenya. I think we need to get to a situation where the community countries can Bluetooth each other and share trade, resources, share our technology, culture, just like neighbors, because this is our backyard. And if we do that, I think this bloc, which is the fastest growing bloc in the world, will be a force to reckon with. And a lot of work has been done. I believe if we implement over the horizons, we will achieve a lot of good, not only for the country, but for the community. Chair, if I may now respond to the question by Honorable Koech on Aror and Kimwarel Dam. If I am approved into this docket, I will study the reports. I will study the feasibility studies and others, and get a full grasp of what the issues are. Because I believe this project was supposed to benefit a group of Kenyans in providing water. Whatever the issues are, would we work with the AG and segregate so that it provides what it was supposed to provide, the water to the people, as the other legal issues are being sorted out? But I will liaise and get advice from the AG. And even in terms of the penalties, I believe the matter is being handled by the Attorney General's office, but I will appraise myself fully and, where required, offer strategic recommendations so that we get a solution and so that the people waiting for water do not suffer any longer. The question by Honorable Hamisi, asking whether I know the areas of cooperation for the East Africa community. Yes, I do. We have areas of cooperation in trade. We have areas of cooperation in agriculture, technology. I have seen also areas in health. And the community is working on a monetary unit and integration, and also a political federation. And I recall yesterday the Mashujaa Day speech by His Excellency the President. He said, with the work that has been done, a political federation is no longer a far-fetched dream, but it looks like a possibility, and a lot of effort is being done in that. Other things, we know that we share even in our cultures, our people mingle, and if we are able to make this community borderless, barrierless, and make it easy, it will be one of the quick wins in the short term, medium term, and even long term for the success of our communities. There are other cooperations, including discussions about an East Africa power pool and interconnection. And this will enable the community be able to trade power and therefore maybe share the renewable energy, standardize the cost of power, support each other. I recall vividly in the year 2020 when we had a challenge in the Kenyan system and it had tripped. We quickly discussed with Uganda, and we were able to transport some power from Uganda, and that held our system from the western side, and we were able to revive the plants that had tripped. And so, working in the energy sector, I realized how interconnected we are as a community and the much effort we should put to work together. In terms of regional developments, you asked if I know the regional development authorities. Yes, I do. There are 6 in various parts of the country, and they are based on the water basins that we have. Chair, I have looked at the regional developments and I have had an opportunity to work with them, especially TARDA and KVDA, because of the dams, both Takwel Dam, Masinga, and Kiambere. The way I see it, Chair and honorable members, the regional development authorities, none of them serves a particular county. Each serves, one serves 17 counties, another one 8 counties, and so they have a lot of work to do in development. The issue we have, they were created in the 1970s, each with a standalone act of parliament, but after the promulgation of the Constitution 2010, the mandates of the regional development authorities was not reviewed and aligned with the Constitution. Because of that, you may find overlap, you may find lack of clarity in their mandate in regard to how they sit in with the counties. I am aware that a bill has been presented, and I believe it will be one of the items that will be brought to the National Assembly so that we are able to align the mandates, avoid any overlaps of conflict of mandates or duplication, so that the regional authorities can support the development that is required for this country. I have looked at benchmarking of regional development authorities in various parts of the country, including the Tennessee Valley and others that we have, and they really spur development that is required. And Chair, if you look at our country, until there is no poverty, until everybody prospers, there is room for players to support each other, the multiplier effect of what each authority or each county is able to do, so that we can hasten development and remove the barriers and the marginalization that exists even in those regional authorities. I'll go to the question by Honorable Mule about electricity. And Chair, I want to confirm that the mandate of KenGen, the mission vision, is to generate electricity that is reliable, that is safe, and also affordable. In that regard, the tariff that you have read contributes to that mission, because it is KenGen generates and sells the power to the off-taker at an affordable tariff. Mr. Chairman, electricity pricing is then done in consideration of the Energy Act, pricing formulas, and many other considerations is done by the regulator. And so, Chair, I would like to say that my advice, as you have asked me to say, I would say that for Kenya to become a competitive hub, not only in East Africa, but worldwide, we need to spur demand for electricity. Because, Chair, the electricity that you generate overally is then shared, the cost is shared by fewer consumers. But if you spur demand, it will contribute to affordable cost of power, because there will be very many more customers who are contributing to that. So economies of scale will help in making electricity more competitive and promote the competitiveness of Kenya and even the region as a hub. I will go to the question by Honorable Russo about the regional development and about the ASALs. I believe that the ASALs hold one of the keys to prosperity in this country. What we need is to have sustainable solutions to the problems therein. The reports I have read and the data I have seen is that we even have a lot of support from development partners and from various quarters. We need good coordination so that we come up with solutions that serve our regions well. I have seen somewhere that one of the shortcomings or one of the challenges is that the communities feel that the solutions proposed did not emanate from them. We need to involve the communities to tailor-make solutions that will alleviate the situation. Chair, I believe people support what they create. So if we go down there and ask for solutions, they will do all they can to make sure that those solutions succeed and those actions are able to alleviate the problems that or challenges they understand so well. In regard to the regional development authorities, I had earlier covered the point. I do not vouch for them being disbanded. We only need a law that clarifies and refocuses the mandate. Then we see how they can work, even in an IPP framework, and bring development to those regions for the good of the Kenyan people, and especially in the ASALs.
You are done. Mishi, Posing, George, Ferdinand, and Mary, the Honorable. One question each in that order.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, my question will be on fishermen in Lake Victoria, and I cite Migingo, Indian Ocean in Kwale, Shimoni, and Vanga. They face harassment from authorities in the neighboring jurisdiction. How do you plan to resolve regional conflicts arising from harnessing of shared resources? I've just touched on the fishermen, but there is more, even in terms of agriculture and in terms of trade. So what are some of the plans or measures which you're going to put in place to ensure that there is harmony within the East African community? Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, thank you, Chair and Speaker. Nominee, Mr. Miano.
Yes.
What would you say are the do's in your ministry? Should Parliament approve you? Or take it another way, what will you say, list, and say, I'm going to do the following things immediately, I enter into that ministry? Or, I don't know what to say, because, Speaker, the context of that question is what Honorable Hamisi asked. Many people don't understand this ministry, really. People don't understand in relation to foreign affairs. Because if you want something in Uganda, will you not use the ambassador? And so when is that ambassador yours? And when is that ambassador for foreign affairs? You know? And then finally, maybe finish with elaborating the relevance of regional development agencies in that ministry of East African community. What's the relevance? That may help us understand the ministry of people of Kenya and also understand the responsibility to the same ministry. I thank you, Speaker.
George. Thank you, Chair. Nominee, ASAS areas, Tharaka Nithi, Kitui, Tana River, Garissa, possibly are banking on the development of the Grand High Force Dam by Kengen and whoever else is going to be involved. We know the cost is enormous. But when you get into this ministry, which really has to do everything to do with arid and semi-arid areas development, would you vouch for the construction of the Grand High Force Dam?
Thank you, Ferdinand. Nominee, hoping that the House will elect you or approve your nominee, and I quite agree a lot has been done in East Africa. And two, as a strong Kenyan representative, you are looking. I want you to tell us, currently we have this drought, which is affecting ourselves here and the other side. So what would you put in place, strategies you have put in place with these other East African countries to be able to tackle the drought that you're having today? Next few weeks, maybe, inshallah, God willing, you might be there. So what are you going to do? Because you'll be our strong representative there. Mary.
Thank you, Chair. The nominee, the position you've been nominated to demands that you should be a person whose character is beyond reproach. It is alleged that your reign at Kengen was characterized by acronism, nepotism, favoritism. You promoted and rewarded your cronies and relatives, even created special positions for some of them. What do you have to say about that? Is that what Kenyans should expect of you in the new ministry if we approved you? Thank you.
Rebecca, jibu hiyo maswali.
Thank you, Chair. I will start with a question by Honorable Mishi about the fishermen or the fisher folk in various waters, including Migingo. A lot of work has been done to streamline the issue of fishing so that the fisher folk do not get into problems with the authorities. There has been standardization of things like the fishing tools, the kits, the nettings. There are also discussions to see how we can streamline or how it can be streamlined that the territorial waters and fishing, the issues arising and the challenges are put to rest. Chair, we also need to put a framework of resolving those challenges so that the fisher folk then can continue with their business, which is their livelihood. If this committee finds me a fit to this ministry and approves it, therefore, this will be some of the things I will appraise myself with and resolve any pending matters and bring this issue to rest. We also need to enhance communication. I have seen that lack of information has brought some challenges, not only to the fisher folk, but other business people. And what my ministry will then do is to champion a communication strategy, civic education, and be a fuse to link with other industries, the Ministry of Agriculture and Fishery, the Ministry of Water, the Ministry of Trade, and also the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, so that we are able to resolve all the issues and strengthen the integration in the community. I will then go to the question by Honorable Murugara on the High Grand Force Dam. Chair, the feasibility study and the surveys of High Grand Force were done many years ago. And I think even by the year 2005, 2006, the feasibility study, the plans, they were all ready. And it was being implemented by TARDA because it is a multi-purpose dam to do irrigation, and part of it will be for generation of power, among other uses. When it came to implementation, some challenges were encountered, and therefore it did not proceed to execution or implementation. It remains a critical project, and on the affirmative, I would vouch for implementation of this project. It has a huge capital outlay, and I am sure, together with the technical people involved in this, we can come up with a framework to finance either through PPP, through EPCF, or any other innovative ways that may be available to fund this project. But it is a project that I would support. Chair, if you may, I would like to refresh on the question by Honorable Kosin, then I can answer it. It seems to have escaped my mind.
Can you repeat, Honorable Kosin?
Yes, I can repeat this way, maybe easier. Miano, what are you expected to deliver in that ministry?
Yes.
Deliverables. Are you supposed to deliver East Africa Federation? In trying to understand the ministry, because I said many Kenyans do not understand that ministry. As my colleague, Honorable Amisi said, if you answered Amisi properly, I would not maybe have answered, question that way. And then, Madam Miano, the relevance of the regional development within that ministry, what is the relevance? Because I was asking you, if you go to Uganda, for example, to do your work for East Africa, who is your staff there? Isn't that not the ambassador? And if that ambassador is doing work for you, what's the difference between that work of the ministry and the foreign affairs? Thank you, Chair. I don't know whether I've made myself clear.
Yes, you have. Thank you very much. You asked what I would deliver in regard to the East African community, and you rightfully said it is a ministry that is not known or understood. So the first low-hanging fruit is a communication strategy, dissemination of what the East African community is, where it is not known. With that, we will set a foundation of then implementing the treaty, the intent of the community, because then people will support what they know. That is one. What I'll also do is look at the DR Congo, the new entrant, identify opportunities that will be available, not only for the people of Kenya, but also for the community. DRC is a huge economy. It is endowed with resources. I know it requires quite a lot of integration to be able to utilize these resources and develop them. For example, Chair, DRC can become the carbon basin for the community. We can do carbon trading. We know DRC is well endowed with many resources. And so if we strengthen the integration and the community and identify how we can harness the resources in terms of trade, in terms of agriculture, in terms of ideas, in terms of labor, I think this will help. I will also champion the implementation of the remaining protocols. That is the monetary, the political, with the support of the government and the strong position and will and vision. And in general, I'll be the vision carrier, not only for the president in this docket, but for the leadership, for the legislatures, for the legislature, and even for the people of Kenya. In terms of regional development authorities, if you look at where they are situated, most of them touch the borders of our communities, of the East African communities. And so the projects under the Regional Development Authority will need to be synthesized with the requirements of the East African community so that we knit it together, and as we implement, we are able to sort out not only our own issues, not only issues that are faced in Kenya, but the development of the neighborhood. So we will relook at the mandates of the RDA and position them in line with the EAC, looking at the fact that they are all at the borders.
Thank you.
I have a question. I have one question to answer from Honorable Ferdinand and also from Honorable Mary.
I wanted to make a correction. Regional development authorities, I don't know how they come in because I happened, for a coincidence, I was a managing director for TARDA. I was also managing director for Lake Basin Development Authority. I don't know how they are coming in. That explanation.
Surely, Ferdinand, that's not a fair question. She's not the one who has put them together. She's not the one who has put them together.
No,
So that's not a fair question.
no, I think it's misplaced.
Yes, I think they may have been banded together to your discomfort, but it is not for her to say.
Okay, I agree. Yeah.
Answer the earlier question raised by the Honorable Ferdinand.
Yeah, that's okay.
And Honorable Mary Emase. About your nepotism and all those things that are not very socially correct.
Thank you, Chair. The question by Honorable Ferdinand on whether there are common strategies to tackle the drought. In the East African community, there is free movement of food, and so we should work towards removing the barriers so that if one country has food shortage, it can freely get food from another country and make each East African community partner food secure. I have seen policies on fertilizer, and I have seen other policies on agriculture that will tackle this. And Mr. Chairman, one of the things that our ministry or the ministry should do, like I said, we are a fuse with other ministries, is work with the Ministry of Agriculture, take stock, and in future come up with a food balance sheet for each community country. And this will enable full support within the countries so that if Kenya is facing a drought, we can get support from another country that has enough food, and that can be done at planning level, at a strategic level, so that during planning for food and planting, the ministries of agriculture can sort of start putting together a food balance sheet, and any extra food can support the region in case there is food shortage. Chair, allow me to respond to the question by Honorable Mary. And I will say this: if you serve in the position I have served as Managing Director and CEO, and you have a firm leadership strategy, and you are able to run an organization, you will always find that some people may not all be happy with your leadership style for different reasons, but I want to assure you, and it is on record, that we have policies, we have procedures that we follow in these matters. And as I sit here today, I have heard that for the first time. And because we have very many frameworks of addressing grievances, including an anonymous grievance addressing system that is run by an independent international firm, this has not come in as an allegation. I empathize.
Did you get
with
her
the
question? You know, an international audit will never tell who is your relative and who isn't. What she said is that there are allegations. They may be true, they may be false. That you have been practicing tribalism, nepotism, cronism, and all manner of isms that are antisocial in nature in the discharge of your duties in terms of employing people. You employ people, probably what we say that the name defines you more than the content of your brain and so on. I think that's what Mary asked. Isn't that so, Mary?
Yeah.
Yes. And she said there are allegations. She didn't say it is a fact. So it's you now to respond, because if you hire Deloitte from London to come and audit Kenyan, how can they tell who is your relative? They will just look at people's qualifications and go away.
Chair, they remain allegations. They are not true. I have served with utmost diligence in my position. I have emerged as a leader that has run this organization with utmost diligence.
The allegations are false.
They are false.
Mary, do you have evidence? Or they remain allegations?
I said they are allegations.
Okay.
So I just wanted to hear her view, because I got that from a message that was sent to me by a member of the public.
Which you
so
are,
it is an allegation,
you are
which I have asked.
legitimately right in raising
Yes,
it.
yes, thank you.
Now, Rebecca.
Sure.
Yes, Rahab, I thought you had forfeited.
No, Rebecca, congratulations.
Thank you.
For your nomination. But I wanted to know what you are going to do about our borders, especially the Tanzania side. Because sometimes our truck drivers can spend even 5 days there, 10 days there. Like the other day, they were going there for maize. And then all of a sudden, they were told that they have to have a permit, and it was not there before. So what I want to tell you, if you happen to get this position, and considering Tanzania president is a lady like you, you try and have a good relationship with our Tanzanian neighbors, because they are good, they are farmers, but we need to have a better relationship. Thank you.
Our relationship, Mukami, should be good regardless of the gender of the president. That's what we must be committed to. Let me ask you, you'll combine with Mukami's question. We have a commitment to free movement of people, goods, and services within East Africa. And routinely we have seen pronouncements that people can move the way they want. We have a lot of Kenyans working in Tanzania. We have a lot of Kenyans in Uganda, in Rwanda, in Burundi, and vice versa. One of my personal doctors is a Ugandan living in Kenya. But routinely, we have seen this happen, and I want to know what you will do to stop this. Tanzania arresting thousands of Maasai herders cattle from Kenya and auctioning them. Tanzania arresting thousands of day-old chicks from Kenya and destroying them. Kenyan traders crying on top of buildings about eggs from Uganda. Now Kenyans crying about sugar from Uganda. Every other day we see Ugandans have been arrested in Kenya, they're being shipped back. Kenyans are in jail in Uganda because they were found fishing on Lake Victoria. Kenyans are in jails in Mwanza, Tanzania because they were found fishing on Lake Victoria. Zanzibaris and Pemba people coming to Mombasa, arrested on the high seas and thrown back. Now, what is the spirit of integration that you are going to steer so that we have a truly free movement of people, goods, and services? I say this, Rebecca, because Kenya is the Germany of Europe to East Africa. We are the hub, we are the big brother. We are the epicenter of many things. But when we now arrest our neighbors coming in, then they retaliate, and you find it becomes very difficult and the benefits of the community disappear. Because even as we cry about unemployment and so on, some of our youths can get opportunities within the context of the community. What are you going to do to ensure that there is a true free movement of goods, services, and people? Then you can combine with Mukami's, yeah?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would also want to plead with the nominee in the event that we approve you to liaise with your counterpart in the Ministry of Trade and relook at the agreements that were signed or treaties, whatever it is, government policy regarding clearing of goods along the border. Our towns of Busia and Malaba are slowly dying. There is no business. Business has crossed over to Uganda. Everything is being done in Uganda. We even drink in Uganda. We go to the gym, Uganda. We go eat lunch fish, Uganda. Everything in our border is expensive. All the business people, the investors within those towns, the hotels are empty. We must do something, because if we are to create employment opportunities in Kenya, then those towns must offer those opportunities. So there's something wrong with our agreement. Thank you.
Yes, Nominee Waziri.
Thank you, Chair. If I could combine your question and the question by Honorable Rehab, which was more of a comment.
Yes.
And I agree with that. And Chair, it's true, despite all good intentions, there still exists barriers. The protocol provides that no country shall create a barrier or taxation for any goods that are similar